This title could possibly redefine the entire space game genre. Hunternet Starfighter is currently in development and it has a lot of bold ideas. So what makes this game really stand out is that it is laser focused on what it wants to be. And that is a game that brings players together from around the world in a single expansive universe. And that means each location within the game has just one single instance. There's no room here for multiple or parallel universes. Instead, everyone will be able to interact together. Now, this is a claim that we've heard before, but the difference here seems to be that Hunternet Starfighter is available to play, and so far it seems to be working very well indeed. The footage you can see on the screen right now is from a play session I had earlier today, and I've got to say, the flight model is absolutely amazing. That's something we'll talk about more in just a moment. Now, going back to the subject of the setup of the galaxy itself. Now, you may be concerned that perhaps it would be possible to zerg into an entire area and just simply dominate it, or else use up all the available connections, thus preventing players to access your particular region. Apparently, the developers have overcome these hurdles and developed the game in such a way that this will not be possible. Whilst I don't have details on precisely how this will work, the game does have anti-zerging mechanics such as travel costs, logistics, choke points, and the website says the same sort of real-world constraints that hinder zerging in the real world. So it seems the developers have taken real-world ideas, real-world concepts and constraints as inspiration for how the game should function in a fair and balanced way. Now, this will also mean that you can play in your home region, wherever that is, or venture far from home thanks to the game's netcode. You'll need to navigate choke points, manage the travel logistics, just as in real life. And that brings us on to travel and jumps. Travelling in this game relies on instantaneous jumps, which come with fuel costs and post-jump cooldowns. There's a network of jump points connecting all locations, which creates strategic choke points and requires you to make tough decisions about which routes to take and which locations to defend. Jump drives do have various limitations such as fuel costs as well as mass restrictions, so the size of your ship will certainly play a part here. The jump drives are also vulnerable to attacks. Additionally, not all starfighters, I imagine certainly the smaller ones, will come with internal jump drives. But there is a way around this. There are such a thing as external dockable jump drives, something you may remember from seeing in things such as Star Wars, where the Jedi fighters dock with those faster-than-light drives. Now, you may have got the impression that the game is very much about dominating certain regions of space. Indeed, this will involve a certain level of resources and building. So two essential resources in the game are iron ore for building and uranium ore for fueling. Everything has a resource cost, including starfighters, capital ships, torpedoes, turrets, and more. The game follows the KISS principle, focusing on building an economy and factional warfare around a simple loop: mine, build, deploy loop. Now, as you progress, you can test and expand your manufacturing capabilities, optimize your resource pipelines, and even introduce new NPC ships and facilities to create a more immersive universe. Keep in mind that all of this will be entirely persistent, and that means there are no safe zones in the game. The risk management is your responsibility. Your ship and pilot are always somewhere in the universe, even when you're offline. Now, that is certainly a controversial decision. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that myself. When logging off in a game, I tend to like to feel that my equipment, my ship, and pretty much everything else is nice and safe for me to return to. But it really does depend on how the game goes around this. The idea of your ship being, persistent even when you're not in there really does have the potential to open up dynamic as well as emergent gameplay. So, not going to judge this until we get to experience that for ourselves. It's something new and definitely something worth exploring. Now, when you're offline, your ship could be in trouble, as we say, so storing your ship in a well-protected facility or even in a carrier deep inside friendly territory is your best bet, but there's no guarantees either way. Some cases, I've seen some videos of people simply trying to hide their starfighter near a massive asteroid to mask the ship's signature, and this, I guess, can work. Now, talking of friendly territory, that means the game does come with organizations, as you would expect, and you can join or create these organizations. And it makes it easier for players to collaborate with friends and pool their efforts towards set goals. Organizations can control locations, resources, starfighters, capital ships, and stations. They can also customize their assets and display their unique insignia. Now, for those of you who are wondering whether this game is purely a PvP, as it kind of sounds like from everything we've discussed so far, the fact is that it's not. There is going to be a lot of PvE elements in there as well. And this is important for a number of reasons. Firstly, it gives players choice. If they don't want to get involved in PvP, they can head off and get involved with PvE. But also, it means that in a persistent galaxy, in a persistent universe, there's always something going on. Regardless of where you are, if there's PvE activity, if there's NPCs flying about, it means, well, you're not going to ever have a lifeless experience, and that really is very important. And that brings us on to another subject, the idea of an alien faction. This adds a twist to the game. The alien faction is very powerful and mysterious. They are an invader that poses a threat to humanity as a whole, so all the players will face a threat of the aliens, and no, players themselves cannot join the alien faction. The presence of the alien faction then can lead to unexpected alliances amongst players and groups, and therefore opportunities could be born from chaos, where normally players may be fighting against each other, trying to claim each other's territory. If the aliens turn up and start impinging or infringing upon that, then just maybe players will need to band together. Now, for players looking for a quick play session, race-in, or organised competitive play, they are indeed instant games that don't directly impact the open world. So whilst the game is an instance itself, at least not the main game, that's not to say that instances aren't available if you want to choose those. So this is the perfect place to practice, study enemy equipment, or just have some fun with friends. It means that pretty much everything you do there won't have a permanent impact on your main persistent universe activity and equipment. So the things which really stand out to me with the Hunternet Starfighter are the fact that, as I said at the start of the video, the content of the game itself really does seem to be laser focused. The developers seem to have learnt from the mistake of other studios such as Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen, which often have a reputation of being a mile wide and an inch deep. They've gone for breadth rather than depth. Hunternet seems to be choosing the opposite direction to that, focusing exclusively, at least initially, on depth to make everything as optimized and really enjoyable as it can be. This approach I'm really pleased to hear about, and something I'm really looking forward to seeing future results on. Now, if you want to find out more about the game, you can have a look at the links in the video description. As I said, at the moment it is still in active development. You can look at the Steam link and wishlist it there. Alternatively, you can head on over to the Indiegogo page and sign up for the game. It's around about the £20 to £25 price point. In addition to supporting the development of the game, this will give you access to the title straight away. Now, whilst there's not vast amounts to do within the game just yet, it still is a lot of fun nonetheless, especially for the wonderful flight model that I mentioned early on. This has a very much Newtonian physics flight model. It's very different to what you may find in something like Elite Dangerous. Well, to be perfectly honest, it's perhaps a little bit more like Elite Dangerous Flight Assist Off. So I've already got to give it some praises for what I've experienced so far, and the combat itself is also very, very engaging, as you may have noticed from the video footage that I've been playing throughout this video. So, like I say, if you want to know more about this title, do check out the links in the video description. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.